not down. This is the Situation.
The final hour of the Situation Room today begins right now. And thank you very much for keeping it locked wherever you are, on YouTube, on Facebook, on X, on TikTok, on KTN, on Spice FM, from Nairobi to the country, to the region, to the globe. Asante for keeping it locked. This final hour, first hour, we're marking International Youth Day. This final hour, we're marking World Elephant Day. I told you, there's a press conference today. The elephants have called a press conference in Amboseli. They want to address the country. No, they want to address the world, and they have issues. And the person who understands elephant language has now come here so that she can tell us she's seen the press release, she'll interpret it for us, and then she will go to Amboseli, where she will be the translator as the elephants are talking.
So you're saying the elephants have spoken to her? And she has come to tell us what the elephants have said?
Yeah.
All right.
Dr. Paula Kahumbu is the CEO of Wildlife Direct. Dr. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on the show.
Karibu sana. That's the hot seat of the Situation Room. Okay. How does it feel?
It's not yet. Still a bit cool.
Very good. Very good. Now, City will tell you about the Aga Khan University Hospital and what the message that they have for everybody, which is on wellness. Checking your wellness periodically.
Yes. It is easy to take your health for granted. And that is why every once in a while we hear of an emergency. Usually, the emergency was resident in your body all along. It's just that you didn't know. And then when it makes itself manifest, they say it doesn't knock on the door. It actually just comes jumping out and screaming and telling you, you end up in hospital. Now, what a check does, especially if it's a comprehensive one, it gives you a clear indication of the state of your health. And once you know that, then you will know what next to do. This is important so that if indeed you are unwell, the disease doesn't take or doesn't gain sufficient ground of a foothold to the point where it's more or less telling you how long you might live or rather how short your life might be. The Aga Khan University Hospital is saying for a sum, not too grand, 9,950, if you go to any of their sites, any, throughout the country, you will be able to get a comprehensive test for that amount. Simply go there and ask. It's better to be safe and it's better to be sure. And the only way you can do that is if you have a thorough checkup.
That's true.
Yes.
Don't you agree, Paula?
I totally agree. In fact, I need to go do my own checkup.
Yes. It's about time.
Yes.
It's about time. So City will give you the day's proverb. So every week City goes to an African country and mines proverbs from that country and gives us a proverb a day. For these 3 weeks, this is the third week in a row, he's giving us proverbs from landlocked country in Africa. Name one. Not Uganda, not Rwanda.
DR Congo. South Africa?
No, landlocked.
Sorry, landlocked.
Landlocked.
Landlocked, yes.
Central African Republic.
It is. And that's
How do you know? I told you she speaks elephant language. Now, because you said Central African Republic, we are actually in Central African Republic today. And because today is World Elephant Day, the proverb today is City?
Yes, from Central African Republic, and it's about an elephant. Yes.
Wow.
An elephant does not limp when walking on thorns. That's today's proverb.
Wow.
What's your interpretation of that proverb?
Wow. What it means to me is that, if you're that iconic, gigantic, so great, something like a thorn might hurt, but you will not show the pain.
The pain is insignificant enough for you to show.
Or you don't want people to see it.
Because you're big enough, you're too big to fail.
Yes.
To show weakness.
Yes.
That's a good one as well. So what's happening in Amboseli?
Well, it's not just Amboseli. Kenya has elephants in different parts of the country, but there's one very special population. That is the Amboseli Kili West population. This is a population that straddles the border with Tanzania. There are about 2,000 elephants. They've been studied there for 51 years. by Kenyans, Cynthia Moss and a team of scientists. And these elephants have been protected and recognized for the value that they've contributed to our knowledge about elephants. You said earlier, the elephants have spoken. Actually, the latest research shows elephants indeed do have language. And they even have names for each other. And this research is what's coming out of Amboseli. It's one of the least disturbed populations, which means that they represent what elephants should be. And if you go to Amboseli, elephants will walk right up to you. They're so calm, they're so habituated, they've been studied for so long that they don't see humans as a threat. So they're very, very tame, in a sense tame. You can't obviously stroke them, I wouldn't recommend it, but they are the place where millions of tourists come to see them because they're very calm, relaxed, they'll come near you, but they are also the source of the largest tuskers in the world. That means they have the largest tusks. We call them super tuskers. And the reason why we have so many there is because this population has been protected. It's never really been poached much, and it's never been hunted until now. So hunters in the past have always agreed not to touch research populations of elephants. They've always respected, this is a research population, don't disturb it. These big bulls are very important in their societies. They play a very key role in maintaining the balance, especially among the bulls and behavior. You know, they police the behavior of the younger bulls. And the governments of Kenya and Tanzania have also forged a mutual understanding and an agreement about the importance of these elephants for tourism, for science, for ecology, for our heritage, even for our communities. And I don't know what happened last year. Tanzania issued permits to hunt those elephants on the Tanzanian side in a place called Nduimet, which is one of the game management areas. They had 5 permits. They shot 5 elephants.
What do you mean 5 permits?
Tanzania normally issues about 100 permits for hunting elephants per year.
Why?
That is Tanzania's management policy. I am not in any position to explain why. That is what they do.
Okay.
We don't do it in Kenya. We have very different management policies when it comes to hunting.
What does that mean, management policy?
Oh, so in Kenya, we have no hunting whatsoever. We have not had any hunting since 1977 by law. And if you're caught hunting, you're punished quite badly. In Tanzania, they've had hunting. And it's part of their practice. It's part of their culture now. They practice hunting. You can hunt a dik-dik or an elephant. But you have to pay the government, and it's how they generate revenue for the management of their wildlife.
Okay.
But this particular population was off limits until last year. The ownership of this particular conservancy or conservation area was transferred to a new company called Kilombero North. They decided that they would hunt these elephants. The conservation community immediately, raised an alarm. And they started burning the carcasses of these elephants. In the past, hunting, it always has had not such a good name. And so hunters have tried to sanitize it and say we are ethical, we only kill older elephants which are no longer breeding. We don't hunt females, for example. We behave in a very ethical and transparent way. But when you're burning a carcass so that the scientists cannot identify that elephant, it raises a lot of questions. That animal, they used to say, we hunt elephants and we give the nyama, the meat, to the communities, and that's one of the benefits the communities get. But if you're burning it, you're obviously not doing that. They're burning it and burying it. And we're now also hearing that some of these guys are even using helicopters to herd the elephants into the game management area so they can hunt them. So the elephants are outside and they're coming in. Why is this unethical? These elephants are so tame, as I just said. They've never been hunted there before. So you can imagine it's like shooting your pet dog. This elephant is going to walk right up to you. It's almost tame. And so for some hunter from America or Germany or wherever they're coming from, to sit there and shoot this animal just to take away these gigantic tusks, which are about 100 pounds each, put them on their mantelpiece and tell a big story to their friends about how they almost died and how they saved the community from these dangerous animals. No, that's really what it's about. It's ego.
It's a story that they give.
It's ego, yeah. And I think it's shocking that they're taking out these super tuskers. The one individual elephant that we know by name, his name was Gilgil. He was only 35 years old, but because he's a super tusker, he was very, very big. So they assumed he must be very old. And they said he's old and he's beyond his breeding age. Well, he wasn't. In fact, Gilgil, we now believe to be the son of another elephant whose name was Dionysus. Dionysus, at the age of 63, was still breeding, and Gilgil was only 35. He hadn't even reached his prime. Elephants reach their prime in their 40s, 50s. So you can imagine now you've lost this elephant to the population. You've lost the genetics of that elephant for all future generations, so that one individual from abroad can take home this trophy.
Okay. So let's start. Amboseli is managed by the Kenya Wildlife Service.
It is in transition, actually.
Yeah, it's in transition, but currently,
Yes,
it's for until now,
yes,
it's under the Kenya Wildlife Service.
correct.
The elephant population in Amboseli then is protected by KWS,
Yes.
right? Do they migrate? Do they cross over to Savo, to Chulu?
Oh, yeah, these elephants move over huge areas.
Okay.
The elephants in Amboseli number about 2,000. And we know that I think about 600 of them cross the international border. It's literally right there. Amboseli is right on the border. So
Yeah.
they cross into Tanzania, they go up Kilimanjaro, they move in lots of different directions.
Okay. So on the Tanzania side, how are these conservation areas managed? Is it government? Is it private? Is it community?
It is under what they call game management areas. So they give concessions to companies to run them. And those companies are usually interested in them because of hunting.
Okay. So a park will be given to a company.
It's
as a
not really,
concession.
I wouldn't call it a park. National parks, there's no hunting inside of national parks.
Oh,
That's
right.
just a conservation or maybe a name which signifies there's no hunting inside a national park. Surrounding the parks are what they call game management areas. And in those areas,
These are like
there is-
conservancies.
It's kind of like a reserve. In Kenya, we have reserves which
Yeah.
are under the county. They're managed by the county, but the county could also choose, and conservancies are privately owned. In this country, they're privately owned.
Yep.
In Tanzania, these game management areas are still owned by government, but you can take a lease on a game management area.
Okay. So when it's issued to a private company, does it come with conditions?
It does come
This
with
is
conditions.
what you
yes.
should do
Absolutely.
to continue the conservation of
Yes.
the flora and fauna here.
Yes,
Okay. And those conditions would then be the ones that restrict you from hunting unless you're given a license.
exactly.
So then there were 5 licenses that were issued last year, you said?
Yes.
And 4 jumbos were killed.
5 elephants were killed, of which 4 we believe to have come from the Amboseli population.
The Amboseli population, 4 of them had crossed over into TZ.
Yeah. I wouldn't say crossed over. These elephants live in both countries.
Okay. There were,
Right?
there were,
I don't want to say we own them, they own them. No, I mean, these elephants live in an area. They don't care about international boundaries.
okay. This company that is currently managing this game management area, how long have they been in this particular park?
Oh, they only got the license for this particular location, I think in 2021.
So just about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's why they wouldn't know that Gilgil is a young super
No.
tusker.
If you are
Because it's
in the
saying
hunting
that-
business,
Yeah.
if you're in the hunting business, right, it is assumed by the hunters who are coming from abroad who are spending big money that you as the
As the
hunting
guides.
company, you know how to age an elephant.
Okay.
They should know how to.
So there's no excuse for them.
No.
You know, you can't say that, maybe this one, it's 35, but it looked 95.
There is no excuse. And look, they've come into an area, you can't tell me a company has come into an area and hasn't done research on why have they never hunted elephants in that area? Why did the previous concessionaires never hunt elephants in that area when there are so many elephants, and especially big tuskers?
Something I'd like to understand, when people permit big game hunting, there's a logic behind it. Or what is this logic? If it exists, of course.
Money?
Beyond money, there are those who say it's culling. Maybe the population of that particular group of animals has grown. There are many.
See, Tanzania has 60,000 elephants.
60,000.
Taking out 100 is nothing to do with managing numbers.
How many elephants again?
100.
60,000.
They have 60,000.
Population.
They hunt 100. Because you can't hunt babies or females.
Yes.
You can only hunt the bulls. Removing bulls is not going to stop your population from growing. It's not going to reduce your population.
How many do we have?
Kenya has around 40,000 elephants now.
How many elephants do we need or not? No, let me reverse the question. No. The ecosystem within which the elephants breed, what is the number that you'd need to have to reach saturation point where you say this ecosystem cannot take this number?
So I don't think that's particularly relevant to this case because we're not talking about overpopulation. Tanzania's elephants in the last 10 years declined by 75%. And that was because of poaching. You remember in 2012, there was a sale of ivory to China and Japan?
Yes.
And we did hands off our elephants in Kenya, and we were able to actually stem the loss in Kenya. We lost maybe 3,500 in total. Tanzania, at the time, had over 120,000 elephants. They lost 75% of them because what we saw was industrial scale poaching in Tanzania, ivory being shipped out of Dar es Salaam and moved across to Asia. So Tanzania doesn't have too many elephants. No, not at all. Tanzania's elephants are recovering.
The reason why I asked the question is because we're talking of elephants, and elephants must be talked about. I mean, they stand out. But sometimes I'm just saying it's important to ask an answer and get an answer because every time, for instance, when that fence was built around the Abaderes, there was a story of elephants encroaching on people's farms. There was a story of trying to ensure that they are protected. Now, it's a story that always comes up. Now, our listeners would like to understand some of these things.
Sure.
Yes. That's why I asked the question.
Okay, I get you. So sometimes it's not about the numbers, it's about the individuals. Elephants are so intelligent. They are very intelligent. If an elephant figures out how to get into your farm, it's not only going to go there, it's going to train all its mates how to get there. No matter what fence or what barriers, whatever you put in place, that elephant is going to train the
elephants have cartels.
Elephants. They do.
So bring the gang.
And especially the bulls. They don't live with the families. You know, elephants are matriarchal. They live, the matriarch is the oldest female usually, and she lives with her daughters and their children. So they all stay together in a family. They stay largely inside the park and they move out at night and they go and they feed. But the bulls live separated from the females. They leave at the age of about 11. Now, these animals are kind of like humans in terms of our age span. So you can imagine it's almost like a preteen has to leave home and go and join the boys. They live in bull groups and they move to a different area where they feed and grow. And they live in groups where they have their own social structure, very different from the families. There's usually a very big bull who is in charge of all of them. And that bull will have his askaris. I don't know if you remember when we used to talk of Ahmed in Marsabit and Satao. They had their askari. So a big bull will have a bunch of other bulls who are always around him. And that big bull is the one who sets the tone for the culture of that group of bulls. And what we have found is those big bulls are usually the calmest, the gentlest, the most generous. When we were filming Secrets of the Elephants with National Geographic a couple of years ago, we were in Amboseli and we were watching a big group of bulls, and one of them, a younger one, was like bashing a tree and trying to knock it over. All the others were standing around waiting because, you know, when a tree falls, they get to eat the leaves at the top, which are very nutritious. And the biggest bull, his name is Tolstoy, by far the largest of all the bulls, he waited. And he waited aside. He allowed all the bulls to feed. So all the bulls are there munching away. They're having, you know, you can hear them rumbling. They're so excited. There's all this food. And the noise of the cracking tree attracted a family group, females and their babies. They came running when they heard the cracking of the tree and the tree falling. And the big bull Tolstoy, he stepped aside and all the bulls followed him. And they moved to allow the family to feed. Wow. Now, this is the kind of behavior that you only see in a place like Amboseli because we know these elephants, we know them by name, and you know who's Tolstoy and who's who. When you see this kind of behavior, you see that actually these animals are so intelligent, but also they're calculating. Tolstoy wants to probably mate with those females, so he wants to show generosity. And he's teaching all the other bulls the same lessons. And so if you remove Tolstoy these big bulls, you're left with a bunch of youngsters who don't have a teacher, they don't have a mentor, and those are the bulls who are the most dangerous.
Anarchy.
Those are the
Remove.
those are the delinquents.
They form their own political party.
They are. Those are the guys who raid the farms, who don't know how to behave. They don't know what to do when they're in trouble. They don't have anybody telling them to get out or to move aside. Those are the young guys who cause the most trouble. So keeping the big bulls in place is very important if you want to stop human-elephant conflict. By the way, it's not only elephants. It's the same in baboon society, probably the same in human society.
Probably. It definitely is the same in human society.
Look at it. Go down to Maasai land. They always tell you what is the Libon's view, right? They always say that. And if something goes wrong, the Libon makes a statement, and then all the young men behave.
How long have you been studying elephants?
You know, I started working on elephants when I was in my 20s. At that time, Kenya was, I think, in the worst place possible when it came to elephants. We had a mountain of ivory in our storeroom, and I was asked to do the stock take because we were about to burn in 1989. We were about to burn all that ivory. That was a really heartbreaking moment for Kenya, and I thought we had lost it. We'll never recover because our elephants were dying at such a fast rate. I don't know if you guys remember. It was headline news every day, elephants being slaughtered, and military were involved, the authorities were involved, and elephants were just being slaughtered everywhere. And it took me a few years to come back to elephants. And it was because of having a mentor, Joyce Poole, having time down in Amboseli with the Amboseli Trust for Elephants, Cynthia Moss and her teams, Katito, Nora and Soila. These are Kenyan women who know every single elephant by name. And I was taken out in a vehicle with Nora and Soila, and they introduced me to these elephants by name. Oh, you meet this so-and-so. And these elephants will hear their voices and walk to the car and come and stand and just lean in. It was clear that they had a very special relationship with these elephants. They'd already been studying them for decades, and the elephants knew them. The elephants knew their vehicle, they knew the sound of the vehicle, and knew the sounds of their voices. And they would just laugh. It was just like a day of such pleasure. I was there for 2 weeks. Every day was so much pleasure. They would tell me, oh, this is so-and-so. You can tell this is a female, this is a male, this one is this old, this one had a fight with so-and-so, this family doesn't like this family. You know, it's like a soap opera in front of you. In Amboseli, every family is known. Every family has a name, and all the individuals in the family are also named. So the scientists can tell if somebody is in the wrong family or visiting a family, or if there's about to be a reunion of multiple families. They sometimes come together and have a big celebration. It's really amazing to see them.
You know, it's fascinating what you're saying, because the size of an elephant, I'm talking about myself, is threatening. Just the size. It hasn't done anything. And the first time I ever encountered an elephant was in the Aberdares.
Yeah.
And we were told, because this elephant had suddenly walked in the middle of the road, and its ears were flapping, and we're told, we're reversing gently backwards because that elephant is agitated. And I asked, why are they agitated? And I was given some lengthy story. The time I was in Damara, but this time was different. We're in this vehicle, and there was a bunch of elephants in front of us. That fellow knew what he was doing. He said, we are going to pass through these elephants. And I said, okay, this is where
This is it.
This is it. Why did they even bother to come into this place? Because I've stayed at home, watched a movie, and watched these elephants while watching the movie on National Geographic. And the elephants walked, and we actually drove right through the elephants. I got to the other side.
Nice.
Are you saying, the reason I'm telling these stories, it's what you've said is what has made me think that elephants, just as we study elephants, elephants also study us.
Oh, absolutely. There's so much evidence for this. You know, so the work in Amboseli has been going on for so long, and they've done some very interesting experiments as well. And I want to answer your question about why that elephant stood in the middle of the road. It's very possible that he was in must. Must is a condition that was actually first identified in elephants in Amboseli by the work of Joyce Poole. She was studying elephants. She noticed the bulls go through a stage of heightened aggression. And actually, it's just when they're about to breed. So they go through, it's like they're in heat, but it's the bulls. And the females also do go into heat. We call that estrus. And what happens is these bulls, when they grow to a certain size, it's only when they reach a certain size. It only happens when they're in their 30s. Imagine, they can't really breed before that. They reach a stage where they can get into must. And the better condition they're in, the more frequently they can come into must. And they cannot breed unless they are in must. That heightened state makes them walk like tall. Like really, they stomp around. They dribble urine as they walk, and the females can smell it, and we can smell it, actually. It's quite stinky, but you can smell it. The females love it. They follow them.
Elephant in must. You can actually now tell this, the smell of this
and
urine.
You can even tell from looking at it. So you said you saw the elephant. He was big. He was flapping his ear. Yeah, so when an elephant is in must, he stands tall, raises his head. And if you look carefully, you'll see beside the eye, there are two bulges. They are the size of tennis balls, and that is the gland that is producing the I guess it's a pheromone. And his brain has become very different from before he was in must. He becomes aggressive, and he only has one thing in mind. He doesn't want to eat. He just wants to find females. So he will be on the search. And you'll see those bulls. If you go to Amboseli, you'll see family groups scattered around, and you'll see big bulls, sometimes solitary, sometimes two of them together, or you'll usually see others behind, walking behind. They're just hopeful guys. But the main guy will be walking ahead very intentionally, aiming for certain females, and he'll walk and he'll go and find every single female, and you'll see him using his trunk and smelling all the females. And if there's a female in estrus, he will know it, and he will try to persuade her. Usually he will she will run away. They don't usually agree straight away. Takes a bit of time. Usually the females will run away. And the male will start chasing and run until they come to some agreement. And then usually the family will all gather, and the mating is like a whole family affair. Everybody will surround them. Watching. And then they'll be trumpeting. And it's a very entertaining thing to watch. But what's interesting is if one male is in must and another male is in must, and there's a family with a female in estrus, then the males will really, that's why they get into this condition, is high levels of testosterone. And they will just see each other as enemies. And they will smash heads. That's why the bulls, if you look at the skull of a bull elephant, it's really massive, and it's full of holes. So they bash each other's heads, and you can hear the tusks clashing against each other. Sometimes they'll even break their tusks, because one bull has to win. The female will actually wait and see who's the winner. So only a few bulls will ever be in must at the same time.
Okay.
I think you saw a must.
So there has to be
those guys are very dangerous. They can be very dangerous because they just want to show off. If there isn't another bull to fight, they'll even throw a tree. They'll throw a car.
A tree. Oh,
they will do something to prove their strength. In Kenya, we never hear of them really throwing cars. It's very rare. But in other countries, if you go to Southern Africa, you often hear of elephants sitting on cars, throwing cars, tossing even a lorry. You know, they will do
just
things
bulls in heat.
They just want to prove their strength.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes and by the way, elephants that are stressed and terrorized, elephants who get hammered as a result of human wildlife conflict or injured, they may be carrying spear tips or arrows, or they have, whatever injuries they have. They're also very dangerous. When they're in pain, they can be very, very dangerous because their brain is also not working properly anymore. They're in a lot of pain. They're full of stress hormones, and they will just see any human as a threat. So you always have to watch the behavior of the elephants, and the guides are very good at this. The guides are brilliant because they're usually from the local community, and they know elephants. They can tell this elephant is just playing. Sometimes they will play with you. They will even run up to the car and wag their ears and throw dust on you.
That's playing.
Sometimes.
That's how they play.
Not always.
My encounter with elephants is with these Amboseli elephants. Nowadays, there's a place called the Kimana Conservancy. So there's a fence that's been put up to shield the farmers in Kimana from the elephants. Before that fence, I encountered these things. Waking up and staying all night, watching that they don't get to your farms. And you have to beat on drums. And, people from the other side are just saying because they have seen the elephants coming. And if they enter your farm,
that's it.
Kwisha. School fees, imeenda. Just like that.
It's a big problem.
It was a big issue. Nowadays, that fence has really, really sorted out. And the Kimana Conservancy has actually protected the area because of the fence. Elephants, go to Kimana and say at the elephants that they are gentle, nice animals. People will ask you.
Which elephants are you referring to?
Let's take a
But
break.
funnily enough,
We'll be back shortly. Dr. Paula Kahumbo is our guest. She is the CEO of Wildlife Direct. She's here today as we commemorate World Elephant Day. Actually, of all the years, we've never really had a World Elephant Day conversation.
No, I've heard this for the first time.
It's an elephant. First time we're having an elephant conversation. There's something that's happening across the border with Kenya, Tanzania, and hunting and elephants in Kenya. And today, the elephants of Amboseli are speaking, and they've sent Dr. Paula here to come and pass the message.
This is the Situation Room